one. It's random. And today's video is going to be a lot different from the previous ones. I do still plan to make my usual edit content, but that'll likely come sometime after this. But in this video, we'll be discussing a versus battle that I've had on my mind for a while. And that fight is between two characters I've liked for a while. Bete Noire and Sukuna. The reason as to why I decided to make this video is because back then I was a huge fan of Glitchtale and currently am a fan of JJK. So I thought it'd be nice to match the two together in some sort of way. The two characters also happen to have a shocking amount of similarities, both being characters from a long dead era who come back centuries later to fight opponents similar to ones from their past. So, with that out the way, it's time to get into the feats and history of both characters. Bete Noire originally was Amber Lightveil, a human with a soul that was a mix of the traits of kindness and integrity. The nature of their soul killed their mother during childbirth, which left Amber in the care of their siblings, Copper and Agate Lightveil. However, during a dispute between Copper and Agate about whether or not monsters should be released from the underground, they ended up having a fight to prove which one's side was right. Copper was victorious, which led to Agate running away to craft a spell to reverse their current soul trait, bravery, to the trait of fear, which was made to be the perfect counter to determination. Agate eventually returned to once again fight Copper, and in a moment to demoralize Copper to gain victory, killed Amber Lightveil. However, the spell that was used to change Agate's soul into fear slowly started to kill her. So to continue on her legacy, she utilized the Bete Noire spell and used Amber's body to create the creature of the same name, Bete Noire, who would spend years being developed before finally emerging onto the world. Bete is shown to have many powers and abilities throughout the duration of Glitchtale Season 2. With the help of Akumu, a split off of Bete's soul, Bete is able to use them to create various weapons such as scythes and spears. Bete's spears are shown to be able to rip out the souls of monsters and humans alike, which she can then have Akumu absorb to gain a power-up. After gaining enough souls, she's able to use what's likely her strongest ability, Rhabdophobia, which can turn a person's attacks onto themselves. This is currently shown to have no limits outside of a possible range limit. After merging with Hate in episode 3, Bete is shown to be much stronger and faster, along with having the ability to regenerate. But this comes at the cost of the Hate taking her over when she overuses the power. After combining with Akumu and turning into their true form, Bete is shown to be able to shift and change their own body. In their true form, they're also able to regenerate without having to utilize Hate. Bete as well has the ability to create illusions to trick people, usually appearing as someone's dead loved ones. When it comes to actual feats, Bete has been shown to take building level explosions from Frisk's attacks while they were at level 19, and is superior to a level 3 Frisk. Bete has also tanked a laser fired directly at them, which was fueled by Mettaton's power supply. In the episode Game Over, Papyrus uses several Aster Blasters to completely destroy a building. And Bete, very likely, is physically superior to Papyrus due to being able to hold their own against, as I said earlier, a level 19 Frisk, along with being able to hold their own against a trio of Sans, Gaster, and Papyrus. The largest feat on screen that we see is Undyne being able to destroy Akumuzilla, who is around the size of a city block or a large building. Bete should likely scale higher than Undyne in their true form, since they were able to fight off Toriel and Asgore, who were boss monsters, so therefore at the time would likely be some of the strongest monsters. So chalking up the stats in terms of durability and attack power, Bete should be somewhere around the large building to city block tiers. There's not much speed feats for Bete, outside of Akumu debatably having avoided Azrael's lightning. Alright, so apparently I'm a fucking idiot, and Akumu didn't dodge lightning there. That wasn't Akumu, it was one of Bete's blobs. So yeah. Please don't unsubscribe. but it is not made clear if this lightning is actual lightning or simply magic used to emulate lightning. Therefore, I cannot fully say with certainty if it's the same speed. Bete doesn't show many outstanding feats of IQ, however, she is very clearly capable of fighting, and calls out Mettaton for clearly not fighting much. So with Bete's stats out the way, it's now time to talk about Sukuna. Ryomen Sukuna was born thousands of years ago in the Heian era. He was fated to be a twin, however, ate his twin in the womb before being born. Sukuna throughout the ages became incredibly powerful and was able to defeat entire teams of special grades level sorcerers. He was eventually approached by Kenjaku, who gave him the chance to live on as a cursed object, and then thousands of years later, one of Sukuna's fingers comes into the hands of Yuji Itadori, who in a moment of desperation ate it to defeat a cursed spirit who was attacking him and Megami. Sukuna, similar to Bete, has a wide array of abilities. Sukuna's base curse technique is Cleave and Dismantle, both of them being used to create invisible slashes. Cleave is melee, can be tuned to the strength of an opponent, whilst Mantle is long range but cannot be tuned to the strength of an opponent and has a set amount of power. After using both Cleave and Dismantle, Sukuna is able to use Fuga, a mostly single-target attack. Another large part of Sukuna's arsenal is his domain expansion, Malevolent Shrine. Malevolent Shrine creates a 200-meter radius where everything within it is constantly being hit with Cleave and Dismantle. Sukuna can also change his sure hit to Fuga, which makes the slashes be replaced by the same effect of Fuga, which is just a large fire explosion. After taking over Megami's body later on in the manga, he also gains the 10 shadows and all the Shikigami that come along with it, such as Mahoraga. With the 10 shadows, he can combine the Shikigami together and even somewhat emulate other abilities by using Shikigami powers, such as when he emulated Piercing Blood by using the powers of Max Elephant. In terms of stats, Sukuna is very easily multi-city block to city level, seeing as he was able to survive a 200% purple, which should likely be stronger than a maximum meteor from Jogo. I was able to blast away a pretty decent part of Shibuya. Sukuna himself nearly completely destroys Shibuya whilst using his domain, and later goes on to do a similar feat in Shinjuku, even whilst weakened. So for strength and durability, Sukuna is easily in the multi-city block to large city levels. When it comes to speed, going off of statements from Maki, Sukuna should be baseline Mach 3, since he likely has better physicals than Naoya due to being the pinnacle of Jujutsu sorcery at the time. Even without said Mach 3 feat, Hakari has been shown to dodge lightning inches away from his face, which should easily give Sukuna supersonic to hypersonic speeds, since once again he should likely scale above Hakari due to being the strongest. For experience and battle IQ, Sukuna seemingly has had to fight off many cursed spirits and sorcerers alike during the Heian era, likely gaining much experience from battling with them. He also is able to come up with decently thought out plans as to how to beat his opponents, such as when he had Mahoraga adapt to Gojo's Infinity so that he could create the World Cutting Slash, or when he figured out which part of the brain he needed to heal to avoid taking brain damage from using his domain. So with the characters and their individual feats out the way, it's now time to talk about who'd actually come out on top if these two were to ever fight. Sukuna clearly has Bete beat by a landslide in terms of strength, with Bete at max being debatably city block level, with Sukuna at his best being large city level. When it comes to speed, Akumu should directly scale to Bete, assuming that the lightning feat is actually equivalent to the actual speed of lightning, which would put them in a similar tier, debatably. However, in terms of durability, it's still not comparable, along with endurance as well, since we've seen Sukuna survive many more things than Bete has been able to withstand. Some of the few win conditions that Bete has is possibly being able to use her Fear Stare against Sukuna. It is unknown whether or not Sukuna has anyone who'd actually give him pause or distract him for long enough for her to be able to capitalize off of it. Whilst usually Betty's soul spear against most enemies would be an instant win, it is unknown whether or not Sukuna's soul can be affected by such a thing, since we've seen him resist other soul-based attacks like Mahito's transfiguration. And we've even seen him survive stabs and hits to the soul from both Maki and Yuji. Sukuna with the 10 Shadows also has much more versatility in terms of his arsenal, along with the fact that Sukuna can likely heal himself for much less than Betty can due to having RCT. One of the few things that could possibly help Betty get an edge over Sukuna is with the use of Rhabdophobia. It is likely that this could possibly turn the slashes against Sukuna, yet it's not clear whether or not this would even outright kill him, since he likely has similar durability to Gojo, who has been shown to survive a malevolent shrine, and Betty's own Rhabdophobia has been shown to be overpowered by simply creating more of whatever she's attempting to copy, such as when Undyne made more spears against Betty than she could copy. And even if Betty could simply do this, she likely could not encompass the full range of Malevolent Shrine, since her Rhabdophobia is shown to be an AoE attack. We also don't know whether or not Betty's Rhabdophobia works against something like the 10 Shadow Shikigami, since we don't know how it would interact against something that is sentient. And along with all this, in best cases scenario where Betty can properly use Malevolent Shrine against Sukuna, it's unlikely she'd be able to activate it once Malevolent Shrine has already started. Now, it is stated in one of the episodes that only determination can defeat a fear soul. However, this is shown to be untrue, since Betty has shown to fear for her life against characters who do not have access to the power of determination, such as when she needed to manipulate Toriel to attack Asgore, or when she was killed by Gaster, who is stated to not have determination as one of the abilities in his Chroma hands. So overall, when the stats come down to it, Sukuna has Betty beat in pretty much all of them. The only arguable one that they have similar is speed, but it's unlikely that would matter much. The fight at its most is likely a low to possibly mid-diff fight for Sukuna if we say that he's only working based off of earlier fingers and not his full 20-finger power. Hey, this is the end of the video. If you liked it and want to see more in this format, just make sure to like and subscribe so that I know people actually are interested in this sort of content. Thanks for sticking around to the end, and have a good day.